Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Happy Monday, happy Mallard Monday. Yes, we're Monday again, and we do have the Mallard. Now, as you can see, this is completely sealed. You're already going to know from the video description how far I get, but I do have two other magazines here. It looks like we've only got very small parts on those, but you know how these magazines can be. You get one small part, but you have to do 10 other steps on a different part that you've had previously. So as you can see, completely sealed. It's completely unknown to me. Looks like we've got a small sprue in that one, so no idea what we're doing. It does look like with these parts, we might be moving on to the tender. Certainly having a look at what parts are on the front of the magazines coming up, it looks like we've got tender wheels, tender chassis, and tender parts. So it looks like we're moving away from the main engine, and we'll probably be moving back onto the tender. So that will all become apparent at some point, I am sure, in the next few weeks. But right now, I'm going to definitely commit to doing issue 60, and hopefully we'll get to 61 and 62 as well. As I said, you're already going to know by the description. So let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop. Tools are ready to play. We're gonna build something great. Starting here today. Piece by piece we go now.
Right, so here we are, issue 60 of the Mallard. Now, this is how I had all the magazines previously. They all come in this cellophane wrap. And as you can see, can't see exactly what's going on, but you do get the part on the front. So this is why I say it's a little bit unknown. Previously, I have obviously opened up all the magazines as I was starting to get them and checking them over, making sure that everything was fine. But in these cases, obviously stopped at issue 60 and then just kept putting them in a box and not doing anything else with them. So we'll see what we need to do today. So we have safety valve, crank pin covers, coupling rod screws, crank pin covers. And it looks like we do need a few issues from parts from the previous issues. We need a couple of brass bushes, boiler cab sub-assembly. We need the chassis frame assembly crank pins basing bushes. And we need the right and left coupling rods, sub-assemblies and washers, which I do actually have over there. So it looks like we've got a couple of parts that we need to fit to the top of the boiler. And then it looks like we've got quite a few parts, and it looks like we're actually attaching the coupling rods to the engine. So we're going to end up with something that looks like that. So as I said, one small part, but we're using pretty much everything we've got for the engine apart from the tender. So we'll see how far we get for that one. And I know I'll skip through that pretty quick. So we've got Britain's Railways, and we have Great Railway Journeys. Right, so the first thing you can see we need to do, we need to drill out 4 holes, and I've done that in these crank pin parts. They are the crank pin covers rear and front. So done that, and as you can see I've cut them off the sprue as well, including these 2 tiny screws that we need. They've also come off the top of that sprue. The first thing we're going to need is these 2 safety valve vents, and they're going to go, just bring the engine over. It's probably best to keep on the top camera on this one. They're just going to go in the 2 top holes there. Now, they apparently just need to be a loose fit because we will remove them for painting, so we're not actually going to be gluing them in. So just to open up those holes a little bit, I'm just going to use my round file. Just do another test fit to see whether they will go in. So that one's gone in there nicely. And that one's also gone in there nicely like that. So they're perfect. And that's all that we actually need the engine body for. We're not doing anything else with the body. And say I'm not gluing those in. I probably will just leave those in there, and I'm sure they'll be fine and won't hopefully fall out. So we'll move the engine body out of the way, and then we'll get on with the coupling rods. Right, so we've got the brass bushes from 33, 35. We've also got the crank pin spacing bushes, which came, I actually had them in 37, but obviously we had issue 57 at the time. And we've also got obviously all the crank pin, the rods, etc., and we've got the chassis assembly as well. So that's all the parts we needed to collect up. Now I have left them in their left and right configuration, so hopefully they don't get mixed up. And the very first thing I'm going to be doing, now this would be for both sides, we are attaching that into there. So if you remember, we did leave, there was a section there that didn't have a loop on the end, and that's to take that one. So that's going to go in like that, just try and line up those holes, like so. And then we're going to use on the screws that came with it. I don't know how well that's going to work. It's not got a screw head or anything, and the thread on that looks like it's not going to work as a thread. So I'm assuming it might just end up working as a pin, and we actually glue it in place. So let's just try that. Yeah, that pretty much just pushes through. So that doesn't screw or anything like that. So we'll probably end up gluing that one. I'll check the instructions on that. Yep, we do need to just glue that, and we need to make sure that it stays straight whilst we do it. Now, I think what I'm going to do is use the chassis and see whether we can utilise the chassis to actually keep this straight. Like that. So if I put some glue on it, like that, just enough to keep it held, and then I can do a proper glue in a minute, that will keep it nice and straight for later on. Right, so I've now glued that in position like that, and as you can see, that doesn't move anymore, so it's nice and straight. What we need to do is cut off and file down this back pin. So that's a back pin cut off, and as I say, we just need to file it down. Just make sure that's nice and flat. Right, so now what we need is the crank pin spacing bush, and they are different to the other bushings. So this is the one that came with issue 37, which would effectively come with issue 57. The crank pin bush goes on the front one, I believe. Yep, so we've got the crank pin spacing bush on this one, and it doesn't matter which one you use of these two, out of 33 or 35. And this is just the other spacing bush, and that's going to go on the back there. And then I'm going to place our rod over the top of all three of those. Like that. So now we have these pieces. Now we've got one with like a little nut detail. They need to go onto the rear. And then the ones that don't have the nut detail need to go onto the front, like this. So you need to push that onto there. And push that on to there. Now, I am unsure whether these actually do screw on or not. They might do. Don't think they do. I think they are just a push fit. That one is very, very loose. But I do know we're not gluing these, primarily because I think it says at some point we will need to disassemble all this when it comes to painting the wheels up, etc. It does say about securing them with those covers, but I'm thinking they might be a bit too loose to actually secure those. In fact, I know they're not threaded because I had to drill the holes out, didn't I? But it does say on the rear ones we can leave that pin as long as it is at the minute. On the front ones we do need to cut off any of the excess. So I'm going to push that on as far as it will go against that brass bush. And then there's not much showing there at all, so I might just file that one off. But basically we're going to now repeat this on the other side. So we'll put that one to one side for a second. Bring over the left hand rods. Again, I'm going to place those together and put this screw through the hole. So we've got those like that, and as you can see, that does obviously move. So I'm going to use the same tricks I did before, and that crank pin retaining part has just fallen off there. So using the same trick as I did earlier, I'm going to put it on that center pin. So while it's on each of those pins like that, obviously being careful not to glue the wheels, just touching it with a little bit of glue, just on the edges. And then I'm going to give it a second or so for that glue to set off. And as you can see, when we take it off, that is held nicely. Now, because it's in that position, we can actually take this screw out. This is what I did earlier. We can then add a little bit more glue around here, just to ensure that is all secured together. Then we put our screw back in. I'm now just going to touch a bit of glue around that pin. And we've got that all secured in there. Now, I'm going to do the same thing with these bushes. Got that one going on the rear, and then this one on the front, like so. Now we just line those up. Push it on. And again, I'm just going to push these on as well. Again, both of those do seem very loose. That one incredibly loose, but we're not gluing them at the moment. And as you can see, this one's actually fallen off as I tipped the loco over. Right, so apart from filing off the front parts of this, that is all there's to do in that stage. And we're asked to see whether the engine will move and see if there's any tight spots. Now, there does seem to be a tight spot just there. I might just need to work out where that is, which one is fouling. And the idea is that what we'll do, we'll just open up the holes on the coupling rods. And that should give us an idea. That should actually solve the issue that we're having. To be fair, I don't seem to have that tight spot anymore. So maybe it was just a bit of glue or something that needed moving out of the way. That does seem to be moving very, very nicely. Now, these parts are just going to keep falling off. So I'm probably just going to put these, I might even take the rods off completely, just to keep them safe, and then we can add them back in when it comes to working on them again. Now that one seems to be really secure on there. Oh, that one came off then. Right, so I'm going to keep those safe to one side. I'll try and keep the rods on there with the bushes. I might need to do a bit of a bend on this one, just to straighten it out a little bit. That looks better. But that's all there is to do in that stage. I will have a look at the next stage, because as I said, the part of it looks like it's going to be quite a simple one. So we will move this. I don't know if actually we're using this on the other. I think we might be using this actually, because I think it might be the blocks for here, as we've got two of them. So I'll leave that down for a minute, and we'll get issue 61 and see what is involved in that. I was just putting up the bits away that we've used in issue 60, and realised that we didn't use these washers that were mentioned. Now, where they're meant to go, if I take this rod off, we were meant to put the washers just over these little brass rods here. So, well, that one fits. And then put the rod on the front of that. Like so. And just do the same on this side. Put our washer on, always to the back. And then that can go on like so. There we are. So I'll finish tidying up issue 58, 60 sort of thing, and then we'll move on to issue 61. Right, so 61, and we have these couple of parts. Looking just like that. Let's see what we need to do. So we've got the pony axle spring and left hand pony axle box. Now, I'm going to jump ahead myself a little bit here. Because I know I've got these parts again, I'm going to try and do it as a 2-for-1. So let's open 62 as well. As you can see, I've got the same thing here. Just jumping ahead and guessing here that we're going to be doing the exact same thing on both sides. So that's the left one. So we'll keep that on the left, that one go on the right. Let's just have a quick look. So same parts. We are attaching it. So looks the same. So we need the axle box spring, rear bracket, and left hand box from issue 59. That's issue 59. And we need these little things that we made up. There's one. There's two. Didn't actually need to put those away, did I? Right, so we'll take them out of this one as well. There's one. Two. And make sure to put those things away. So, as per usual, just got to do a bit of cleanup. Looks like I've got a little bit of drilling to do. So, you can drill out a hole for that peg to go into. Don't understand why they couldn't have cast that as one piece, to be fair, but never mind. Then we're attaching that to the side of the chassis, and then placing that piece on. So attaching that to the side of the chassis. Then we're attaching the little brackets. And then that is it. So I will do this sort of in tandem. So I'll do both sides, assuming that this one is the same. Let's just have a quick look on this one. So drill a hole, check they fit, attach the chassis, put the brackets on, and then we end up with that. So yeah, exactly the same. So let's go through this one. So then we've got the Mallard story, and we've got classic locomotives. And because I'm going to do this one as well, go with this one as well. We've got the Mallard story in this one as well, and also classic locomotives. 2 magazines, pretty much exactly the same thing. So first thing we need to do is get a 1.8mm bit, and we need to drill out the hole that was marked just here. Right, so we've got the hole for that to fit in there like so. I'm going to do the same thing for this side. Again, just checking that one fits in there nicely, and it does. So next step, we do need our chassis. And we will be attaching this just there, like so. It does have a very tiny lug on the back. And it will just sit in like so. Right, so this bit wasn't really fitting very well. That, I have not glued this, that has that little pin on the back, so that pretty much will only sit there. With the pin on this, which looked like this, it just was not fitting and lining up with that hole, and it certainly wasn't lining up with these 2 indents where those 2 braces will go. So I have just pretty much taken that pin off completely, and it's going to sort of loosely be in line like so. And I think that's going to look absolutely fine. It's in line with the 2 indents, which means that these parts here, these little braces, will sit over the top of these, like so. So they will be absolutely fine. There is a right and a wrong with these braces. One of them's got this little angle on it. So it's actually going to be that one that goes there. And it matches the angle of that chassis rail. Now, the instructions still show this, probably even lower than this currently. But I think for now, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. All this will be in place. And it will be absolutely fine. Those braces, as you can see, do go over the top of those, no problem. And it does pretty much sit where it needs to sit, like that. So I'm going to get all that glued in, and then see how the other side fits, and then probably come back and show you that other side as well. Right, so we've got all that side in with those 2 little retaining brackets as well. So I'm going to try and do this one as well. Now, I'm going to do this a bit as a dry fit, first of all. We do have this little speedo bit that we need to work around as well, actually. So that's going to have to come off first, and that's going to have to go on there first. That little speedo thing has broken off. Now, some of the keen-eyed among you might notice that there is some solder on this chassis. Basically, none of this rear end was staying together with any type of glue I was giving it. So I did end up getting the soldering iron out and doing a not very good job, but at the very least getting it all secured together. Right, let's see how well this one's going to fit in that hole. Try and find it. Right, so that sits there. Is this going to line up at all? Right, so I've got that piece in there now, and just going to put this piece where it lines up with that hole, like so. Now again, a little bit of modification required to get that to fit in properly. So I have taken off that pin that was there, and I've had to file off a little bit of the back of this because it found this little plate. But that is now in like so. Just need to put the brackets on this one now. And again, just checking, make sure that they're the right way around. So we've got the first one, just going to flatten out that bend a little bit. So first one with this little shape to it that matches the contour of the chassis. And all I'm going to do is just dip it in a bit of glue and then get it to sit in its place like so. I'm doing exactly the same thing with this one. Just double check it for fit first, which looks absolutely fine. Get that one dipped in some glue and get it in those little recesses like so. And that's all there is to do in that stage. So that is all there is to do in those 3 issues. And these rods have completely fallen off. Not quite sure what I'm going to do about that storage wise. I'm hoping if I just put them back together, they will not be disturbed and they'll stay absolutely fine. So that is how the engine is currently looking with those rods in place like so. And obviously we've got those bits there. Now, as I said, I have looked ahead. In fact, the magazines do show you the next parts that you get. So if I just pull this one over, so we've got here, fitting a wheel stub axle sub-assembly to the tender chassis. So we are moving away from the primary chassis to the tender chassis. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button down below and give me a massive thumbs up. So, did manage to get through the 3 issues, which was great. They were a little bit temperamental, especially with those little boxes on the sides, not quite lining up, not quite fitting properly. But all in all, not a bad issue at all. As you can see, I've mounted the body temporarily. It's on the shelf up there. Just for storage purposes, it's nice and easy. It stays in one compact place. And the bottom of the chassis is not, bottom of the body is not flat. So it's probably easier for it to store itself on its chassis. So the rods are in place, which is great. It really is looking quite good. As I said, next week, we are going to be starting on the tender chassis, or continuing on the tender chassis, because obviously we've already done bits to it already. So a bit of a sneak peek next week. So the next issue is actually 63. And we have a wheel and an axle. Probably not a lot to do on that. It might ask us to do something else, as it's done before, with another part of the chassis or body or something like that. But we'll see. When I looked a little bit further forward, we have the tender chassis frame. So that's something that could take a little bit of time to do. Now, depending on how well those 2 go will depend on how many issues I do next week, because we also have 65 that's got another wheel, assuming that we'll be placing that on the chassis. And then we've got 66 that looks very much like 64. So this would be the other half of the chassis rail. So I might bundle all of those together, depending on how much work there is on that. If you don't want to miss that, do remember to hit that subscribe button and then ding the bell for notifications, and then you'll be notified when I release new videos. And it costs you absolutely nothing, but it does help the channel out immensely. So that's coming next week, 2 or 3 issues. Do check out what else is on the channel. I've got plenty of things going on here, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.